Can I finish a point? You gave a long speech.
Yeah, you can.
So far, you and Piers have both interrupted me. I'm going to answer this point. If you want to have a Hamas spokesman, have a Hamas spokesman. I did an entire show. We keep mentioning Zeteo. I'm loving the plugs, Piers. Appreciate you. On Zeteo, people can go and watch an entire show I did with Bassem Youssef, another one of your guests, where I talked about on that show about how the UN report talked about gender and sexual violence on October the 7th, how that needs to be prosecuted, how it needs to be investigated. And you know what the UN said? They said, we haven't been able to confirm instances of rape, but we want to, but the Israelis are blocking us from interviewing witnesses and coming into Israel. So maybe Jonathan should get his government.
That is because the Israelis don't want us to find out that there was no systemic rape on 10/7. That's why they're blocking those instances of inquiry.
To allow UN investigators to finish the job, because I believe all rapists should be held to account. Jonathan doesn't. He hasn't said a word. I brought it up several times. He said, oh, it's a few men here and there. No. They're not being prosecuted. The Israeli parliament defended them. The Israeli media had debates about whether rape should be legalized. That is the military he's part of. He earlier, in a very racist way, suggested, I have no civilization, no country, no loyalty except to Qatar and Iran. I'm a British American of Indian descent. I have nothing to do with Iran or Qatar. I would say this, that Jonathan needs to deal with those human rights abuses. And finally, the last point I'll make, you keep going on about, oh, these groups are not taken seriously. Jonathan Conricus, Piers, wants you and your viewers to disbelieve Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, UNICEF, UNHCR, Refugees International, International Rescue, Christian Aid. Disbelieve all those groups.
We get through this Piers Morgan segment. I think it's going to be spicy. Whenever I see Mehdi Hasan, absolutely just admonishing, just eviscerating a pro-Israel simp. This time, an ex-IDF soldier, Jonathan Conricus. Gavin, do you have any thoughts before we watch Mehdi go after this guy?
Let's take a look. Always enjoy seeing Mehdi serving up the facts.
Oops. So people are still bearing the brunt of occupation violence in both the West Bank and Gaza. It's a total and utter lie to suggest otherwise. It's also interesting that Jonathan responded to your question, Piers, by talking about how, and I think I'm quoting him correctly, that when you come into our homes and you kill our civilians and you rape our women and you set us on fire, that is a declaration of war, which is ironic because he's just described everything that Israel has done in Gaza and the West Bank, both in recent weeks and months and over the years of occupation. So how come it's not a declaration of war for Palestinians when Israel does it to the Palestinians? It's only one-way traffic. Only one side has a right to defend itself, right? Not the other side.
Boom, he's spitting from jump.
Number two, I would just say, he talked again about kind of, oh, there were too many names and I speak too fast. Let me just be clear. I can speak very, very slowly. One issue, rape. He lies and tells your viewers that Israeli soldiers are held to account. That's not true. Anyone can go on Google right now and look at the number of Israeli soldiers, the percentage who are actually indicted or charged with any crimes. It's 98, 99% of Israeli soldiers are never charged with any crimes. And that's from B'Tselem, that's from Israeli human rights groups. I'm sure Jonathan will call them anti-Semites as well. And when we look at one single instance of rape in detention, which was well documented by the Israeli media and by human rights groups and actual Palestinian eyewitnesses, what happened? The Israeli military police, Piers, went to the base to try and arrest the soldiers. The soldiers ganged together, attacked the military police, and then the parliament had a debate about whether rape should be legal or not, whether it's legal to rape Palestinian detainees.
And this is all well documented. We covered it at the time on the Vanguard. If you Google any of this stuff, you'll be able to watch live footage of the Parliament of Israel kind of negotiating whether or not sodomizing prisoners should, and they'll be like, everything is on the table, pounding it. And they had an entire riot to free the IDF soldiers that it was undeniable had committed sexual assault against Palestinians. Pretty deranged.
And now we're learning this week, Piers, that the military police officers who were assaulted by the soldiers who were the buddies of the rapists, are too scared to give testimony against their soldiers.
Okay, Mehdi, I don't disagree with you.
I don't know. Hold on, Piers.
No, I want to ask you one question.
That is very important that we talk about accountability.
I know. I've got one supplementary.
I will answer your question, but I'm going to finish my
point. But on the issue of rape,
I'll come.
Okay, on that one issue of rape, though, what I haven't heard you mention at all is the hideous sexual abuse, including rape, of so many innocent women.
Because we all condemn that.
On October the 7th. Well, no, but I'm asking you now, you haven't mentioned it. And Jonathan's raised that several times. You only seem fixated.
Why would I? Because
you're fixated with Israeli soldiers who may have committed rape. What about the rape against Israelis?
Piers, if you want to do a debate like that, invite.
What about the widely debunked rape?
Jonathan Conricus.
Is Mehdi gonna point out that there's like no proof of that?
I haven't watched this clip yet. It just got sent to us during the live stream, so I'm not sure. I sure hope so. Everybody has. There was a reporting by Jeremy Scahill, among others, showing that this is widely debunked. The 10/7 rape hysteria. There was not a single.
If he brings that up, they're going to gaslight him and be like, "What? What do you mean it's been debunked? You anti-Semite."
That's true, but for our audience's knowledge, there was an effort to call every single rape crisis center in Tel Aviv that day and see if there were any rape kits that were used. None were. In fact, there's a story of one rape kit getting lost tragically that the IDF put out, but no documented instances and no first person's accounts, as in no victims have come forward and said I was raped on the record. So you guys it's like babies in incubator story kind of shit.
And invite a Hamas spokesperson. I'm sorry, I'm not a spokesman for Hamas. I've condemned Hamas. Unlike Jonathan, I condemn people who engage in human rights abuses. I did it hold on. Well, I've done it. Well, maybe you should pay attention, Jonathan. Instead of reading my book, check everything I've said on the conflict. I was condemning Hamas decades ago, and I've been attacked by certain people for condemning Hamas. Can I finish a point? You gave a long speech. So far, you and Piers have both interrupted me. I'm going to answer this point. If you want to have a Hamas spokesman, I'll have a Hamas spokesman. I did an entire show. We keep mentioning Zeteo. I'm loving the plugs, Piers. Appreciate you. On Zeteo, people can go and watch an entire show I did with Bassem Youssef, another one of your guests, where I talked about on that show about how the UN report talked about gender and sexual violence on October the 7th, how that needs to be prosecuted, how it needs to be investigated. And you know what the UN said? They said, we haven't been able to confirm instances of rape, but we want to, but the Israelis are blocking us from interviewing witnesses and coming into Israel. So maybe Jonathan should get his government.
That is because the Israelis don't want us to find out that there was no systemic rape on 10/7. That's why they're blocking those instances of inquiry.
To allow UN investigators to finish the job, because I believe all rapists should be held to account. Jonathan doesn't. He hasn't said a word. I brought it up several times. He said, oh, it's a few men here and there. No. They're not being prosecuted. The Israeli parliament defended them. The Israeli media had debates about whether rape should be legalized. That is the military he's part of. He earlier, in a very racist way, suggested, I have no civilization, no country, no loyalty except to Qatar and Iran. I'm a British American of Indian descent. I have nothing to do with Iran or Qatar. I would say this, that Jonathan needs to deal with those human rights abuses. And finally, the last point I'll make, you keep going on about, oh, these groups are not taken seriously. Jonathan Conricus, Piers, wants you and your viewers to disbelieve Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, UNICEF, UNHCR, Refugees International, International Rescue, Christian Aid. Disbelieve all those groups. Disbelieve the World Food Program run by City.
Remember when people like Brianna Joy Gray and Butch Ware tried to act like Mehdi Hasan is just he's willing to he loves genocide. He doesn't even, genocide's not even a red line for him. He doesn't even care about Israel.
Yeah, I'm trying to find your tweet, Gavin, that I think summarizes that very well. About Mehdi Hasan, where you basically said a good litmus test for whether or not someone has lost their mind as whether or not they think that Mehdi Hasan, here it is, I'll share this for everybody to take a look at. These are Gavin's tweet, not mine, but a good litmus test for anyone has lost their minds is if they think Mehdi Hasan is some sort of sellout partisan Democrat. The dude is one of the left's best interviewers and debaters. Plus, he was one of the very few on TV speaking out against the genocide in Gaza, as he is right here on Piers Morgan, right? And
kicking ass.
Yeah, 100%, Gavin.
Yeah, totally kicking ass.
Cindy McCain, the late widow of John McCain. Disbelieve all of them and believe the Israeli military, which he was a spokesman for, which was caught lying about beheaded babies, about calendars in the bottom of hospitals, about Lebanese documentaries, the number of the Israeli military lies that they've had to own up to. It's a joke. No one trusts anything Jonathan's saying.
All right, Jonathan, final.
Well, so anyway, Mehdi ate that guy's lunch, cooked him over the fire right there. That was some real waxing, 100%. And I thought, to your point, Gavin, about how Mehdi shouldn't necessarily just come in and say there was no rape on October the 7th, he quite brilliantly says, well, I want all rapists to be prosecuted and put in jail. And I support, international organizations such as the UN going in there to verify that. Unfortunately, Israel's blocking it. I'll let you decide why. We all know why. It's because they're not going to find anything, but he doesn't let them get the I can't believe it pearl clutching that you pointed out.
Exactly. And like, I'm sure there have been examples of Hamas, committing sexual assault. I'm sure it has happened. It's just that in the way it was described, in that very extremist, hyperbolic, sensationalist way that it was described and printed all over the front pages of magazines and newspapers across the world, that was BS. That was total garbage, and it was complete propaganda to manufacture consent for the genocide that's taken place in the year since. Straight up, just like you said, Zach, with the babies in incubator story. You know, same kind of thing.
Consent.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, Mehdi Hasan, as always, absolutely brilliant. I can't believe anyone would ever act like this guy. Oh, I can't believe he's just an establishment bootlicker or whatever. Like, fuck you. Mehdi Hasan is one of the best out there. He's a brilliant journalist. He's great in debate settings, and honestly, he's probably the biggest nightmare for Zionist spokespeople like this piece of 100%. Dog shit.
And that's what's crazy. Like a Butch Ware and the Green Party brigade coming out here and being like, you have no right to advocate for Palestinians. It's like, why would you say that to one of the best English speaking advocates for Palestine with a large platform, somebody who is using that platform fiercely, somebody who was fired from MSNBC and as retaliation for their stalwart commitment to advocating for Palestinian rights? Why on earth would you try and slander that person? Why on earth would you try and debase that person when
over
you should be doing everything to uplift them?
Yep, over 100%. A strategic disagreement. Yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine, dude. 100%. Where the chorus knows it. Sing along if you know the refrain, right? We need to be uplifting our best advocates instead of tearing them down.
Yep. Brianna Joy Gray was not kidding when she wrote that article in defense of litmus tests or whatever. She's like, if you don't pass every single one of my litmus tests, you're a piece of shit. You're a fucking enemy. I'm like, chill, bro. Chill. It's a strategic disagreement. You're willing to throw away like your best allies, like real comrades. Mehdi Hasan, you're going to throw away Mehdi Hasan over a strategic disagreement based on voting blue versus voting green, in the same way that you threw away tons of your allies and colleagues over the strategic disagreement of force the vote. Remember that? It's like, yeah, I also supported force the vote. It's not like I stopped respecting everyone who didn't. It's not like I just completely now disregard the opinions of people who felt otherwise. But that's how she acts. It's crazy.
Yeah.